Hello, hello, and welcome to Verbling. Hi there, I'm Teacher Oakley, and we're going to continue today where we left off in yesterday's class at the same time. Yesterday we were looking at present continuous verb tense. Today at this time here on Verbling, we're going to look at past continuous verb tense. And tomorrow we're going to finish this little series by looking at future continuous verb tense. We'll be doing that. We'll quickly take a look at how the verb tense is formed, and then we'll look at several common uses of the past continuous verb tense, and you, the students, will practice forming sentences related to each of those uses as we go along. And we'll get other related information dealing with continuous tenses, hopefully, to include in the lesson. Okay, before we get started, let me meet and greet and say hello and check your microphone. So, hello again, Heidi.
Nice to see you again.
As always, okay. And hello, Natalie. Is it Natalie?
Yes, hello.
Hello. How are you? Welcome to the class. Hi there.
I'm tired too.
Tired? Yeah, I can relate to that. Okay. All right, Heidi, Natalie, I suspect others will join us as we continue. It's quite all right. You can join the class anytime you feel like it. Let's take a look. I'm going to do a screen share and we'll get started because there's quite a bit to look at. Okay. Okay, here we go. Looking at past continuous tense. Looks like Grace has joined us. Hello, Grace.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, welcome to the class.
Thank you.
Okay, and all right, let's take a look here. The past continuous tense, how it is formed, quite simple. We use was or were depending on our subject-verb agreement, depending on what person we're speaking in. I was, he was, she was, it was, or they were, we were, or you were. And then the present participle version of the main verb. Present participle is simply the verb. For example, study with ing. That's it. Ing ending. So that's it. So in a basic example, you, the subject noun, is followed by the verb construction here, were, and studying, and then when she called, which would be very typical to use past continuous to show, to talk about two actions, but more on that later. Let's just look at the very basic construction. In the question form, as always, the first helper verb or auxiliary verb is going to move to the front of the sentence and the subject will follow that first helper verb. In other verb tenses, we can have more than one auxiliary verb. It's quite common. It's always the first auxiliary is used in the beginning of the sentence. So, okay, were, you. Use the subject noun, studying. What she called. That's it. And then the negative, you were not studying when she called. Notice placement of not follows the first auxiliary. So that first auxiliary is kind of key to understand, to work with for questions and negatives. Of course, it is very common for us to use the contracted version when speaking. So very normally I would say you weren't studying when she called. Okay, that's very normal. When we have not, we usually, in speaking, use the contraction. All right. Very similar to our examples, we're going to talk, our first use we're going to talk about is an interrupted action in the past. All right. As in our diagram here, okay, past continuous indicates that a longer action in the past was interrupted. So in our diagram, the long action is the red line. Notice the red line starts in the past and ends in the past. All right, it doesn't go up to the present. That's what we have perfect tenses for. So the action which took duration is the red line. The interruption is usually a shorter action which is going to be spoken or written. In the simple past, that's the purple X. All right, an interruption. This purple X can be a verb, an actual action, or we can use time words to express that it's an interruption in time. Okay, so for example, I was watching TV when she called. Fine, just like our samples. I was watching TV is the red line. Okay, you're in the process of doing that. And then she called. Ring, ring. That's the purple X. She called. Again, simple past. She called is in the simple past because it's a one-time action, which is also has nothing to do with the present. It's a finished action in the past. Look at this kind of alternately. Okay, notice if I put the very common to see past continuous with a when clause. When the phone rang, she was writing a letter. Same idea, I just put the when clause first. Notice when I put the when clause first, I need a comma. That's because she was writing a letter is a simple sentence. It's an independent clause. It can exist all by itself. It doesn't need any help. On the other hand, when the phone rang is a dependent clause. It's a subordinate clause. It needs to be with something else in order to make it into a sentence. It's impossible just to use all by itself. So, not just with when, but any subordinate clause when it's first in a sentence when we're writing, we need a comma. Notice we don't need it when it's the second part of the sentence. Okay. Notice the alternate here. Instead of when, this next example uses while. While we were having the picnic, it started to rain. While we were having the picnic is the red line. It started to rain is the purple X. Okay? Notice that when we use when, okay, now, it's not an absolute rule, but it's a normal rule. It's just normal and unquestionable. It's very debatable when you mix up when and while. Notice when being used with the simple past. Normally, we always use, I don't think there's any, strictly speaking, any strict grammar rule against using while with the simple past, but we normally use when with the simple past, and we use while with the past continuous, while we were having the picnic. Because while means during the time. So obviously, I mean, that's what the word means. So obviously that would more likely be used to express something that takes time, which is what we're doing when we use continuous tenses. All right, what were you doing when the earthquake started? Okay. Same thing. Just in a question form, I was listening to my iPod, so I didn't hear the fire alarm. All right, same thing. You're in the middle of listening, and then the fire alarm went off. Oh boy, tons of examples. Okay. while John was sleeping last night, someone stole his car. Okay, hopefully you get the idea. One last quick one here. In a dialogue, what were you doing when you broke your leg? Notice the question. Here the answer, I was snowboarding. Because this isn't a conversation in spoken English, we don't have to refer back to the time every single, when we're speaking and a time clause is already known, it's known when I broke my leg. So I don't have to say I was snowboarding when I broke my leg, and we commonly would never do that. Once the time clause is, or time phrase is stated, it does not need to be restated over and over again. That would make speech very long and boring. Okay, let's give this a try. Heidi,
Mhm.
go ahead, please.
I was taking English lesson. Suddenly, I got hungry.
My English lesson. Okay. What was it? Suddenly?
I got hungry.
Okay. I got hungry. I'm starving right now. I was taking my English lesson. Now, I need something else with suddenly here. I can have and. Suddenly I got hungry. Or but suddenly I got hungry, meaning maybe you continue speaking and say you left the lesson, or maybe when suddenly I got hungry. Normally we would I need some kind of bridging, some kind of way to bridge these two phrases. Okay, but anyway, yeah, that's the idea. All right, continuous, a lengthy action, and then interrupted by something. Okay, that's good. Okay, Natalie,
Example.
can you try forming a sentence, please?
Okay. I was playing in the park when I broke my leg.
Oh, ouch. Is that right? Okay, Natalie, I think I got all that, and I can hear you, but it's very, very soft. If there's any way you can turn up the volume a little bit, that would be great. But for now, that's fine. That's great. All right, that's the idea. Interrupting action. Okay, Grace.
Yes.
Somebody's breathing heavy. Whoa. Grace, okay. Can you go ahead and try to form a sentence, please, using past continuous. Okay, go ahead.
I was studying Chinese. I was studying Chinese when I when I um I was studying Chinese when I
Yeah, what can be your interrupting action?
interaction is falling asleep.
Okay, so it would have to be when I fell asleep.
Fell asleep.
Okay, sure, that would work.
Yes.
Okay, new student, not sure what your name is.
Oh, I'm fine.
Hi, what's your name?
I'm Fan.
Oh, you're Fan. You have a different
Yeah.
picture or something.
Yes.
Oh, hi. Hi, Fan. Didn't know it was you. Okay. Well, hello, Fan.
Hello.
Fan, you want to try to create a sentence expressing the idea of a longer action in past continuous? being interrupted.
Yeah, sure, sure. I was sleeping when the cell phone rang.
Sure, that's very simple. Yeah, that works. Okay, terrific. Great. Let's look at another usage. Let's a little bit slightly different, basically the same as actually use one. You can also use a specific time instead of an action. You guys used actions, fell asleep, cell phone rang, broke my hip, got hungry. All right, instead we're going to try the same thing, but with a time, like this. Last night at 6 p.m., I was eating dinner. Okay, at midnight, we were still driving through the desert. Going to be very common to see the adverb still to express the idea, again, to emphasize the idea that something is an action of duration. Yesterday at this time, I was sitting at my desk at work. Okay. All right, here's an important note before we practice this. In the simple past, a specific time is used to show when an action began or finished, possibly. In the past continuous, a specific time only interrupts the action, so it means you're expressing the idea you were in the middle. It's past, were in the middle of the action. So, for example, last night at 6 p.m. I ate dinner. The idea here is you probably started eating at 6 p.m. That's what I would understand if I heard this. However, if I heard last night at 6 p.m. I was eating dinner, I don't know when you started, but you were somewhere in the middle of eating dinner at 6 p.m. So slightly different meanings. You can use either one, of course. Both of these sentences are grammatically correct, but they have a slightly different meaning. Okay, so using these examples, let's see if we can make a sentence using a time phrase. Look at these time phrases. Last night at midnight, yesterday at this time. Okay, let's give it a try. Heidi?
Yeah.
Okay. Try instead of an action interrupting, a time interrupting.
About time.
Yeah, like these examples here.
At 7, when my husband went out, I was cooking.
Okay. Whoops. Yeah, that's it. Okay, at 7, when my husband went out. Yeah, that's cooking, not cooking. Cooking. Okay. Yeah, that's great. Actually, what is she doing? Actually, your husband went out. You're actually doing two things. That's yeah. Actually, she's giving me a time and an action, an interrupting action, both. Okay. Well, that's actually a great example. It's perfectly normal and perfectly okay to do that. Okay. Fine. So you're giving me both an action and a time. Okay. Natalie, your turn, please.
The last summer, I was studying Chinese. The last summer, I was studying Chinese.
I was learning. Is this what you said? I was learning Chinese. Yeah, I guess so. Okay. It's interesting. I think you said the last summer. It should not be the last summer. You don't need the. Just last summer. Yes, question?
You need to say a specific time, for example, like bien or 7, or you can say speak
Uh,
a longer time, long time.
Time is tricky in English. Is it specific enough? Well, you've actually hit the nail on the head when you're dealing with verb tenses and such. Is it specific enough? Is it an interrupting time? Well, kind of. I think it's okay. I think this is specific enough because last summer is an interrupting time as far as, okay, as the year goes. All right, the seasons interrupt the year, the other flow of the seasons. I think this is okay. It's a good question, really. I don't think it has to be that specific. I think this is okay. This seems like a perfectly normal sentence to me. Last summer I was learning Chinese. There's an implication, however. Last summer I was learning Chinese. Yeah, there's a little bit of a and. If I heard this, I would go and. So I kind of assume there's another shoe will drop. You were learning Chinese when something happened. What happened when? Okay, I signed it. Kind of question. It's a little strange to say. I was learning Chinese, and I mean, if you were actually having a dialogue and you said last summer I was learning Chinese, and I would kind of think, yeah, and then what? So why are you telling me this in this way? Grace, can you give it a try?
And yesterday last night is okay. And yesterday night.
No, we just say last night. We don't say we never say yesterday night or
Yeah. Last
okay.
night
Uh-huh.
I was studying English. Night at 9 p.m.
Oh well. Okay.
At 9 p.m.
Okay. Well.
I was studying English.
Okay. All right. Well, this is extremely similar to a first example, so obviously this is okay.
Yes.
Okay. Fan, what do you got?
Last night I was riding a bike with my friend in a park.
Okay. When it's a little more vague, I have to tell you, like last summer, last night, I would immediately think and and what? Okay. Yeah. Is it specific enough? I don't know. Does it really say? Okay. Last night I was riding a bike with a friend in the park. I guess it's okay. But it does really make me want to ask you, and then what?
Okay. So I should keep the story, make up the story.
Well, no. I'm just saying more specific times at 7 at midnight yesterday at this time at midnight. Looking at our examples, these are all very specific times.
Oh, I understand.
Okay, you can also use a specific time, and the idea of what is a specific time as an interruption is a little bit difficult in English, so the more specific you can make it, the better you're going to be. Is it specific enough? It gets very tricky. Things like in the past year or last year are very different idea, although they seem very much the same or very close. They're completely different as far as is it specific or non-specific time.
How about this one? For example, yesterday it was raining all day long. It's not specific time.
Yesterday was raining all day long. Yeah, well, that seems like a very normal sentence to me. Right. Notice that you can't say Heidi. No, I think that's good enough. That's a good example. All right, I guess it is. So I guess it's good enough. This would be a normal sentence to say, right? Yesterday it was raining all day long. But at least you have to say yesterday. Because, you know, if you just said it was raining all day long, it wouldn't make any sense at all. The sentence would just not make sense. So at least you have some kind of time word there. I think that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, let's go. Let's move on to our next usage, which is to talk about parallel actions.
Excuse me.
Sure.
The sentence I made was I was riding a bike with my friend, and what if I rode a bike with my friend? What's the feeling? What's the difference of them?
Okay, let's try it. Last night I rode a bike with a friend in the park. Okay. All right. All right. What is the difference? I think basically I think both are correct. Okay.
Yes.
I think both can be used. There's just a different emphasis. The emphasis here was on the verb, the fact that you were writing continuously for a long time, and the speaker, for some reason, wants to emphasize that fact. Whereas if we use past simple, the emphasis is on the finished action. So the idea that you're done riding the bike. This action is over and done. So. All right. This either one is correct. You can use either one here. Okay. All right. Okay. Especially since last night is over a period of time, so you could actually use either one. All right. But if you had one of these specific times, think about this. Last night at 6 p.m. I ate dinner. Again, this is where there's a difference. You can use a specific time in a past simple, but when you use a very specific time, it means that's when you started. So last night I rode a bike. Well, that doesn't mean that doesn't tell me any specific time that you started riding the bike, right? Okay. So in other words, if you're gonna these vague times, yesterday, last night, yesterday it was raining all day long. Yesterday it rained all day long. Most certainly, and that doesn't change the meaning at all, right? Yesterday it rained all day long. Okay. Doesn't really change any meaning with the vague time clauses. With the specific time clauses, it changes the meaning a lot. Okay, let's look at another usage. Parallel actions. Two actions, same sentence, so two verbs, obviously. Both actions happening at the same time. The actions are parallel, as in the two red lines here. So, how do we form sentences? Well, I was studying while he was making dinner. Very common to use the subordinator while. Again, if the subordinator's first, you need a comma if you're writing. While Ellen was reading, Tim was watching television. Were you listening while he was talking? Okay. Very common sentence. All right. Notice this construction. I wasn't paying attention while I was writing the letter. One clause, two clause, three clause. So I made several mistakes. Now here, simple past. I cannot say, so I was making several mistakes. That wouldn't actually make any sense here. Okay, because really you are showing a result here. There you go. What were you doing while you were waiting? Okay, another question form. Doesn't have to be two. Look in the last example. They were eating dinner, discussing their plans, and having a good time. Great. Many of these cases I use while, but I don't have to. Tom wasn't working, and I wasn't working either. All right. Neither I nor Tom were working is another way to say that. Okay. All right, let's start. Let's try talking about parallel actions. Two things going on at the same time. Heidi?
Okay. In the coffee shop, I was reading a book while other customers were chatting.
Okay. I was reading. This is getting very close to our next, what we're going to look at next, atmosphere. Actually, it's very similar to this. She's basically kind of describing the atmosphere, what the coffee shop was like. All right. But that's great. Also, she's as well talking about parallel actions. Okay, Natalie?
I was walking. What you doing on yesterday?
Sorry, again?
I was walking. And what you doing yesterday? The question? It was continue with the question?
Yeah, I just can't hear you. I was walking.
What you doing yesterday?
Is it while?
While?
I don't know. You're saying it fast, and it's so very. Your volume is so low, I can barely hear you. So you got to say it one word at a time.
Okay.
I was
walking while you
okay.
are eating.
You
Are eating.
are?
You
Well, that's were.
You
okay. Yeah, I can't use are because that means one thing is happening in the past and one thing's happening now. Okay. I guess that's okay. I was walking while you were eating. All right. Sure. All right. Grace, you want to give it a try?
I was cooking while I was cooking while my daughter surfing internet.
What internet?
Surfing.
Surfing. Okay,
Yes.
good. I thought you said stalking.
Every day.
Okay. Well, you've got to have the verb to be. You just missed the the verb to be. You need was here, right? Was surfing.
Yes, was surfing internet.
Okay. And really, we should say was surfing the internet.
Surfing
Yes.
the internet. Yes.
There you go.
Was the internet.
Okay. Fan. Try an example with two parallel actions.
I was speaking to you while my mom was washing the clothes outside.
Don't see anything wrong there.
Right.
I was speaking to you while my mom was washing the clothes outside. Okay. Simple enough. All right. Similar to what Heidi was doing, okay, we often use a series of parallel actions, more than one. Basically the same thing that you just did, but in a whole series to describe the atmosphere, again, obviously in the past because it's past tense. For example, when I walked into the office, several people were busily typing. Some were talking on the phones. The boss was yelling directions and customers were waiting to be helped. One customer was yelling at his secretary and waving his hands. Others were complaining to each other about the bad service. Okay, so there you go. A long paragraph with lots of past continuous tenses used to basically describe what the atmosphere, kind of what it was like. Notice, I do want to show you one thing. Where is it here? Okay. One customer was yelling at his secretary and waving his hands. Notice that this is a simple sentence, one subject, noun, customer, was yelling and waving. I don't need to repeat was yelling and was waving, okay? If I using more two or more verbs with the same subject noun, then I don't need to repeat the auxiliary verb. It's not necessary. When I notice here, up earlier, I changed the subject noun. That's what's going on. Several people were typing. Some, new subject noun, were talking. The boss, different subject noun, was yelling. Customers, different subject noun. When I have the same subject noun, I don't need to repeat was. Okay, I think you understand that. You basically were already kind of doing that, just in a simpler form with the parallel actions. So I'm going to just move on. I'm going to look at this next usage, repetition and irritation with always. The past continuous with words such as always or constantly expresses the idea that something irritating or shocking often happened in the past. Kind of similar, somewhat similar to used to. Yeah, I guess so. A habit, or talking about a habit or something that somebody else used to do, or maybe even yourself, it's possible. But with negative emotion, that's the important thing. It's pretty much always it's a negative thing. It is possible to use it in a positive way. It's just very unusual. So this is what it looks like. You're putting the adverb in the normal place in front of the verb. It's going to look something like this. She was always coming to class late. All right. Kind of like saying she used to come to class late all the time. I could say that same information, just say it a different way. Okay. He was constantly talking. He annoyed everyone. All right. I didn't like them because they were always complaining. Okay. Obviously, we find these things annoying. Can I say she was always doing nice things for people? Oh, I'm sorry to hear your grandmother passed away. She was always she was always doing nice things for the neighbors. She was always baking cookies for her grandchildren. Yes, it is possible to use it positively instead of negatively. Constantly, I don't know. I don't even know if that's possible. Oh, I'm sorry to hear about your grandmother. She was constantly baking cookies. Kind of sounds bad. She was always baking cookies. Of course, if you're being negative or being positive, this will be reflected in your intonation in reality. Okay. Let's just give this a quick try here. Heidi, Go ahead.
In the family restaurant, some children are running around, and their parents are screaming to them.
Well, that's okay. That's atmosphere. You're describing atmosphere. Okay. I would like to try. I'd like you to try a sentence where you're talking about something that was repeated, like she was always coming to class late. The idea is that she
Yeah,
did many,
in
many
the
times.
family restaurant, some children are always running around.
Oh, okay. All right. Yep. Okay, that works. Uh-huh. In the, I don't know. Is it the or a? All right.
Children are always running around, and their parents are screaming to them. Then I don't want to go there anymore.
Instead of to, it should be screaming at. It should be screaming at.
At.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. So I don't want to go there. Okay. Maybe any more would even make it more clear. Okay. Okay. That's very good. All right. Nice long sentence there. Okay. Natalie, go ahead. Give it a try.
I'm sorry. In the example, you use present continuous, or is children
Pass.
are always running? Right?
Oh yeah, this was you're right actually. You're right. This is present continuous. Haha. Okay. We okay are screaming. All right. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I didn't even notice. It can this whole usage with always or constantly can also be used for present continuous. That's right. We could change that. Some children okay, were always running and their parents were screaming at them, so I didn't want to go there anymore. Notice, don't want to go there anymore. Right. Yeah, I can just change that very quickly and easily. I didn't even notice. Right. Thank you. You're absolutely right. So anyway, all right. Well, it's worth seeing because and their parents were screaming at them. So I didn't. Okay. There. There. That fixes it. Now we're in past continuous. Good point. Okay. Do you have an example sentence?
Some cartoons were always giving bad examples to their children. Behaviors.
To children. I probably don't need the here because you're talking about children in general, and children is already plural. So when children are countable, 3 children. So I can just use the plural of a countable noun to speak about it in general. I don't like cats, for example. Some cartoons were always giving bad examples. Okay, that would work. All right. Sure. Grace, what do you got for
My
me?
neighborhood. My neighborhood. Always.
Okay. Well, okay.
Always jumping a floor.
What?
A floor. Floor. F-O-O-R.
A pool?
No,
What?
no. Jumping floor. F-L-O-O-R. F.
L O O R. What?
No. Floor. House is floor. F-L-O-O-R.
Floor.
Yes. So,
Okay.
I always saying is okay.
I don't know what you're saying. Feigning.
Talking. I talking.
Talking.
Yes.
Okay.
Talking. Them.
Oh my goodness.
Annoying me.
Okay.
Annoying me.
What?
Annoying me. Talking them annoying me. Annoying me.
Don't know what you're saying. I can't understand that.
Annoying.
Annoy, maybe.
Annoyed?
Annoy.
Annoy
Annoyed.
me.
An-
Yes.
Is that,
Me.
are you done? Me.
Annoyed me.
Okay. I have to tell you, this really doesn't make any sense at all. Okay?
Yes.
Wait. My neighborhood, first of all, your neighborhood is a place. It's like saying my bathroom.
Yes.
Okay, so my neighborhood is an actual physical place.
Yes.
Like saying my closet is always jumping. That
Yes.
I don't understand. So my closet can't jump.
Yes.
My neighbors? Do you mean my neighbors?
Wall.
Do you mean
Neighbors.
neighbors?
Wall.
Okay. Were, you're right, we need the verb to be. My
Yes.
neighbors were always jumping floor. I don't know what that is.
Yes.
I don't know what does that mean?
Jumping house. Jumping the house. Jumping.
What are they dancing or something? Are they jumping rope? Are they exercising?
Children is sofa is or pro is jumping.
Okay. So in English, we wouldn't say they're jumping the floor. We would say they're making a lot of noise,
Yes.
or they're thumping and bumping.
Yes.
Okay.
Children is jumping on floor.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, jumping on the floor.
On the floor. On the floor.
Okay. All right. My neighbors were always jumping on the floor.
Yes.
Or maybe even better, to make this make more sense, my neighbor's children
Yes. Maybe children.
were always jumping on the floor. Okay. All right. Then we've got so connected to make a compound. So I always talking them annoyed me. I always. Okay. So okay. So I was always talking to them. Okay. I was always talking to them. Annoyed. Where do you put that in the sentence? I was always annoyingly talking to them. Yeah. Annoyed, I guess. I was always talking to them annoyed. All right. I guess that's it. Oh my goodness, that was some work. Okay, we got there though. All right, well definitely. All right, gets the idea of something annoying. Okay, Fan, you want to give it a try?
Yeah, sure. It was always raining outside last week, so I didn't go anywhere.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, you're annoyed with the weather. Okay. Sure. All right, so I didn't go anywhere. All right, that's pretty good. Okay, you're showing that you're annoyed last week, so we've got a time clause in there. Okay. So I didn't go anywhere. All right. All right. The whole last week I didn't go anywhere. All right, I like that. That's a good sentence. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. As I said earlier, well and when. Clauses are groups of words which have meaning but are not complete sentences. Some clauses begin with a word, like when, such as when she called or when it bit me. Other clauses begin with while. These are called subordinators, just so you know. They create a subordinate clause. When you talk about things in the past, when is most often used with verb tense simple past, whereas while is usually followed by past continuous. Again, not a strict, hard and fast rule, just this is the usual, normal. The word while itself expresses of the idea during that time. Okay. So, for example, I was studying when she called. While I was studying, she called. Okay. Okay, so basically, you know, the main idea is there in both of these sentences. Okay, this a little more emphasis on the first sentence on the bold part. More sentence. The sentence more emphasizes she called. That's more important. Whereas the second sentence, while I was studying, she called. Notice even when I say it, I was studying when she called. I emphasize called. My intonation, my pitch goes up. While I was studying, she called. Opposite here. Now I'm emphasizing studying. Okay, you can say it either way. It just changes the emphasis. All right, always important when you talk about continuous tenses to discuss non-continuous verbs or mixed verbs. Non-continuous verbs are stative verbs that cannot be used in a continuous tense, or they're not supposed to be. You may hear them used this way, but they're really not supposed to be. Some are just strictly non-continuous. They should never be used in a continuous tense. Things like love, hate, like, adore. You're really not supposed to say, I was liking her in high school. I liked her in high school. That's it. Other mixed verbs, such as the verb to be, depends how you use them. Jane was being at my house when you arrived is just plain not correct. I need to say Jane was at my house when you arrived. Of course, I can say my children are not being very good. I mean acting. That's not existing. Jane was being at my house, just I'm saying she exists. If I'm using the verb to be to mean exist, I cannot use an ing continuous form. If I mean it as behaving or acting, my children are being naughty, then yes, I can. Same thing with having. I'm having a party on Friday night. That's perfectly okay. I'm having a new car, not okay. So sometimes it depends on the usage. Usually, if you're talking about a state, how things are, whether that is the state of your emotion, I love it, or the state of being, Jane was being at my house, or ownership. I can't say owning. I was owning a car in high school. I have to say I owned a car in high school. Okay. Anyway, you have to be aware of that sometimes you cannot use a continuous verb, so you're just going to use the simple past instead, like here, Jane was. Okay, we only got a minute or so, so a quick introduction to the passive form. Active form, of course, the object noun is doing the action. The salesman was helping. Who did he help? The customer, the object noun. When the thief came into the store. Okay, fine. In a passive construction, the subject noun, the customer, was being helped. So the action happens to the customer. All right? We don't actually have an object. If we want to say who did the action, we usually use prepositional phrase with by the salesman. Okay. Really, there's no two. The information in both these sentences is exactly the same. We use passive tenses when, first of all, either it doesn't matter at all who's doing the action, or it's completely obvious who's doing the action. I was given a ticket for speeding. Well, I don't have to tell you who gave me a ticket for speeding because you all know, and I know, everybody knows, the police give tickets for speeding. It's just very obvious. So it's unnecessary to say the police gave me a ticket for speeding. Okay, so maybe it doesn't matter, maybe it's very obvious. Maybe you just simply want to emphasize the action happening to the person. Anyway, that's for past continuous. The form is was or were, and then the being, the ing part, is here in the verb to be. Was being helped, and then the past participle. Okay, the painting was being bought when it was stolen. Okay, like that. That is going to have to do it for today. Thank you very much. Tomorrow I will be back to look at future continuous tense at this time. Thank you very much. I'm off
Thanks.
to have my lunch. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.